Good afternoon. My name is Phil Robertson. I'm the director of the Asia Human Rights and Labor Advocates. It's a pleasure to be here to have this opportunity to address this important side event in preparation for the upcoming UPR session for Cambodia. I want to thank Musukwa and the Khmer Movement for Democracy for inviting me to take part. The UPR process is a very important opportunity for stock taking about how a country's human rights situation has changed over the past 4 years, in this case for Cambodia in 2019 to 2023. Sadly for Cambodia, this assessment is remarkably easy. Despite plenty of generally uninformed hype from the international community about how Prime Minister Hun Manet might be different from his father, Hun Sen, the reality is Hun Manet is really just old wine in a new bottle, as the old saying goes. And that goes for human rights as well, since it is hard to find any indication of any progress on human rights during the period that Hun Manet has been in power. In fact, on just about every human rights issue over the past 4 years, the situation in Cambodia has gotten much, much worse. Civil and political rights have virtually been wiped out. Just look what's happened to freedom of expression, association, and peaceful public assembly. Prosecutions skyrocket against persons for critical commentary online. Public protests are nearly impossible now in Phnom Penh and elsewhere in the country, and those who dare protest face retaliation and immediate arrest. Opposition political parties are also under concerted attack by the government. As we all know, the CNRP was dissolved back in 2017 under bogus, politically motivated charges, and now it's its successor, the Candlelight Party, that is being systematically targeted by the government, with party leaders at all levels facing harassment, arrest, and prison on fabricated or trumped-up charges. Every day, it seems, I get another phone call from another Candlelight Party activist who has fled to Thailand seeking refuge. In March 2023, opposition party leader Kem Sokha was sentenced to 27 years in prison on the basis of completely bogus, totally fabricated charges of leading a so-called color revolution against the government. In fact, this color revolution is a creation. It springs from the mind of former Prime Minister Hun Sen. It's from his imagination. But today, Kem Sokha is serving a prison sentence that is coincidentally just as long as the current one faced by Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar. Kem Sokha was convicted by a kangaroo court controlled by the Cambodian People's Party that is just a bit as nefarious as the Myanmar courts controlled by the SAC military junta in that country. Civil society in retreat across the country as the government cracks down on activists and organizations who call for respect for human rights, who defend their communities, blow whistle on officials' corruption, and seek to protect land, livelihoods, and the environment. If you just take a quick look at the government's harassment and shoddy treatment of Mother Nature, an innovative advocacy NGO led by Cambodian youth that won the prestigious Right Livelihood Award in 2023, you can see what I mean. Or look at the fate of Sung Sen Kurana, who is one of the leaders of the human rights group Ad Hoc. He was recently forced to flee overseas after facing lawsuits and likely criminal charges from the Cambodian People's Party operating under the direction of CPP leader Hun Sen. Facing such attacks, it's no surprise that many NGOs and community-based organizations have decided that they must self-censor in order to survive Cambodia's new dictatorial regime. And just a few days after World Press Freedom Day on May 3rd, it's obvious that Cambodia has joined the ranks of its authoritarian neighbors like Vietnam, Laos, and Myanmar in the way that it treats the media. With the exception of one small remaining national news service, it's clear that the national independent media in both the Khmer language and the English language have been completely wiped out in Cambodia. And the last outlet that's still standing, this is Cambodia News, is under constant threat from the government to shut it down if it runs stories deemed too critical of the government. The government's forced shutdown of VOD News in February 2023 for reporting an article that quoted a government spokesperson who actually described Hun Manet's role in authorizing earthquake aid to Turkey. This was a travesty of the highest order. Basically, the Cambodian government and the ruling CPP were looking for a reason to force the closure of VOD News, which was doing serious investigative reporting and uncovering rights abuses and government malfeasance. And this weak excuse, this story about Turkey, was used as the rationale they came up with. The reporter who wrote that story was harassed, was subjected to misogynist attacks, and ultimately forced to flee the country. She's now a refugee in North America, simply for doing her job as a journalist. But, as we can see in Cambodia, when you've got the police, the military, the prosecutors, the courts, the ministries, and the parliament all in your pocket, as Hun Sen and now Hun Manet do, then sadly you don't really need any good excuse. You can do what you want. Any rationale will work because it's not about evidence or justice, but rather it's about power and the threat to do harm if an NGO, or in this case VOD News, does not comply with a shutdown order. All this has become possible because the Cambodian People's Party has effectively destroyed democracy in the 2018 and the 2023 national elections. It's a pretty simple formula. They dissolved the CNRP before the 2018 election, and then they made up a weak excuse to prevent the successor opposition party, the Candlelight Party, from running in the 2023 election. So it's basically boxing in the ring with no opponent. And that's what Hun Sen and now Hun Manet have done. Any opposition leaders, political activists who have proven too stubborn then face attacks connected to the ruling CPP, the thugs that attacked people on the streets of Phnom Penh in 2023, as we saw in that run-up into those 2023 elections. And others face arrest, imprisonment on bogus and politically motivated charges. So that's really the executive summary of the Cambodian human rights record that the international community will be reviewing in the upcoming UPR in Geneva. Let's hope that the international community does a better job in Geneva than it has done in Phnom Penh. Let's hope that they stand up for human rights in Cambodia and that they really call the government out once and for all for what it's been doing to the people of Cambodia. Thank you for your time and attention.